All right.
All right, well, welcome to the Sustainable Procurement for High Performance Federal Buildings training. We're going to kick it off with some introductions from Steve, and then followed by Michael, and then myself. So, Steve.
Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Coy. I'm the Technical Director of Health and Sustainability for BIFMA. Been with the organization for about a year and in the industry for office furniture for about 20 years now.
Excellent. My name is Michael Bloom. I'm joining you today from the U.S. General Services Administration, or GSA. I'm in the Office of Federal High Performance Green Buildings, and I am the Program Manager of SFTool.gov, the tool that we're going to be sharing with you today.
Hi, and I'm Paul Sheriari, Founder and Chief Innovation Officer here at Ecomedes, and we'll be showing you guys a demo of the platform that integrates all the data from BIFMA level and other furniture standards into the platform for GSA and federal buyers. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Steve.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank Ecomedes and GSA, both Michael and Paul, for allowing me to just spend a couple minutes giving an overview for those who might be new to both the name BIFMA and as well as the level certification. So first of all, we're the industry trade group representing primarily commercial office furniture. However, nowadays, those lines are graying more and more. Been around for about 50 years now, with standard setting is one of our main roles that we play within the industry, along with some government advocacy and really just education, working with various groups, both inside the industry and outside the industry, to make education around what's going on with sustainability and other important matters. Next slide. So the main reason I'm here today is just to explain a little bit more on kind of the level certification and the E3 standard. So we did this certification a number of years ago. Around 2008, we got together, and really the goal was to bring both regulators around the table, that being government, also NGOs and others, and come up with a standard that everyone could be proud of and that we could regulate ourselves, really, through the ENC process. So it's in the spirit of continuous improvement, as mentioned there. It's on its 4th iteration. And we're actually in the process of iterating again. So we're going to be doing this on a regular basis to kind of keep up with what's important as the world views sustainability. Next slide. So level is the certification to the E3 standard. And I think that's, very important to realize. So the standard itself is kind of the textbook, if you will, and level by a third-party auditor is saying, yes, you understand and pass the test, if you will. So there's a registry around the certified products. You'll hear more about that later. And as you can see, it's aligned with a lot of different groups that we consider extremely important when it comes to purchasing green, if you will. Next slide. Mentioned this already, but it's a process that wasn't just a number of manufacturers getting around a table. It was far more than that. There were manufacturers putting together the standard language, but then working with all these different groups, NGOs, government, and others to say, okay, is this really where we want to go? Is this how we should do it? So again, collaborative effort. Extremely proud of the effort that's been made, and as a result, we have almost 4,000 products that are certified. Next slide. Important to note, it is a comprehensive certification. That was one thing that we set out to do, and I think we were successful in doing it, is not just looking at one or two aspects. We wanted to make sure we looked at a variety of things, including the facility where the product is made, the product itself, of course, because it is a product certification, but even the corporation that's behind that product. And then look at all these different aspects, from EPDs to HPDs to low emitting. So again, it's a point-based system, much like LEED. And the idea is, the more credits you get, the higher level you get. Next slide. So as a result, and probably the most important thing, and that's where we love to work with people like GSA and others who are driving this demand, is that by getting level certified, people were changing the way they make products, changing the way they design products. And this is just a list of things that have gone on. Companies have made progress, and the goal really is obviously about making a more sustainable product. So we're measuring that as well. And we consider it extremely important to have partnerships like this where you can kind of create the demand, if you will, but also start at the beginning of the pipe, if you will, and work through the product and the product design so that, you know, we're all aligned on kind of how to make a better product. Next slide. And that's it for me. So again, just a short thing. I'll just mention too, if there's ever anyone in the audience who has any questions about kind of what level an E3 is, by all means, reach out to me and be happy to connect one-on-one. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Steve. So I get to run through what we're going to run through in the next few minutes. So I'm going to provide you with an overview of the Sustainable Facilities tool in general, and then we're going to dive down deep into the Green Procurement Compilation, which is where the procure related items are in SFTool. When we're talking about SFTool, we're talking about it as a tool to help you do your jobs easier and showing you some automation, but it's also a great resource like those of you who used to write and use a thesaurus, or if you're an expert in organizations, maybe you have a textbook you go back to all the time, or maybe you're a project manager and the PMBOK is something that you always look at, or maybe you're a manager and you really need to know how to work with emotional intelligence. All these books, and I have hundreds of books on my shelf, are examples of books that, yeah, I've read already, but I go back to regularly to help remind me of what some of the key things I need to look for are. SFTool and SFTool Product Search are that kind of tool for you. They're not something that you need to read the 800 pages book on bureaucracy just to be a bureaucrat, but literally look at the table of contents and be reminded of, oh yeah, those are the key things about bureaucracy and behavior. I get it now. So when we're going to talk about what's in these tools for you, they're both a big resource with lots of learning, but also a way to automate the search for compliant materials that match what the federal government needs. So you don't need to read a 900-page book about bureaucracy. So we're going to do that. After I do my part, Paul is going to go specifically into how the SCS certified products are represented and aligned within the tool and give you a live demo. So that's what's to come. Let's go to the next slide.
Sorry about that typo. It's all level products certified.
Thank you. I already introduced myself, so let's go next. So the sftool.gov is a website that you can go to right now. It's free to use, and it's something that we created about 11 years ago to help anybody understand how to build sustainable facilities. Now, this was written for people who never went to school for this, who probably needed to learn what was sustainability from the beginning in many cases, but also written for people who were high-end mechanics, mechanical engineers, electricians, plumbers, etc., that knew their thing, but didn't know how to do integrated design and didn't know how to fit with the broader picture of what sustainable buildings were. After building a tool that was a great resource, like all those books I just stacked to my left, we realized it was a great place to actually speak plain English about doing sustainable procurement, and it's been the home for the Green Product Compilation ever since. We'll dive into that shortly. But before I do that, SFTool has over 4,000 pages of information about sustainability. We're talking climate, we're talking health, we're talking energy and water, we're talking about links to the full source information and lots of case studies about why the federal government does what it does regarding sustainability, and why generally the markets are asking for the things they're asking for. So it's a great touchstone for you to find information about all of those things, including other tools like cost-effective upgrades in buildings and case studies. So let's just take a quick peek at a couple of those sections. There's a Learn section. It covers climate, energy, water, and health. How about that? There's a plan section that is basically like the mind dump of the best project managers of how they go about planning FF&E projects that are mostly furniture and equipment, or full building renovation projects. What do they never want to forget about doing those things right? Why is it worth looking for the BIFMA level certificate when you're doing an FF&E project, et cetera. So, and then overall strategies like ideas I already mentioned, integrative design being one of them, or even net zero when it comes to energy here or climate adaptation. All of those things we talk about in detail. Next. We also allow people to explore a virtual workplace with green dots indicating where they can make sustainable choices. Notice a lot of those are on furniture, but also windows and flooring, etc. This is where you can get information and material comparisons about those things, but we also cover whole building systems in there, like and concepts like indoor environmental quality, things that the furniture you choose to put into buildings have a lot to do with. And indoor environmental quality also deals with acoustics. Again, something that furniture and furnishings have a lot to do with. And I'm speaking to people who work in this industry, so you understand. But yeah, the Explore section allows that virtual tour and really prompts people to go, oh, there are a lot of things I can do and choices I can make that make my space sustainable. Next. We also are the place where all the interagency conversations about sustainability come to live. So that's the Interagency Sustainability Working Group home base, and that's the apply side. There are a lot of great case studies. And on the right-hand side, it's where the Facility Management Institute lives, which is our way of training facility managers in the federal government to do their jobs well. It helps actually identify what skills they need and where they have gaps, and then link them to free training. Now, the nice thing about a tool that does this for feds that's also open to everybody, you can do this too. So if there are elements of things that you want to learn about that are facility related, you can take a look there too. It uses SFTool as the open book to essentially take those skill tests. Next page. Where we're really going to spend most of today's time is on the Procure page, otherwise known as the Green Procurement Compilation. Why it's a compilation is that federal environmental programs and rules come from multiple agencies. It used to be that you'd need to know that USDA had biopreferred, and EPA and DOE shared Energy Star, and EPA had WaterSense, and all these other kind of crazy things. What we wanted to do is actually make sure that you could come one place and get all the rules so that you knew what you needed to do to comply. But and you'll see this in a moment, when you get all the rules on one page, doesn't mean that there's a lack of complexity. It's just organized complexity. That's nice, but nobody wants to go back to that 600-page book every time they want to figure out what they're going to do. So what we wanted to do, and what you'll see I did do with working with Paul, is actually see how can we automate compliance with all the rules that the GPC clearly states. And that's what we'll show you next. So lots of categories of stuff. I know we're talking to BIFMA, so building finishes and furnishings are key, but there are 27 main categories on the GPC. Everything with a green square around it on this diagram is something that we've worked with Paul and Ecomedes to also automate. So let's go to the next step. When we're really diving in on the GPC on furniture or building furnishings, this is where we'd start. Building furnishings being the big category, and you see on the left-hand column the subcategories that are there. There's 7 of them. Each subcategory has their own procurement guidelines, and we'll show you those in just a second. And they vary because the EPA has made recommended specification standards and ecolabels, and the federal government has several federal programs that I've already mentioned, and basically those apply differently to different categories. Let's go to the next slide. So on the left, we have your starting place for Procure. In the middle, we have those green binoculars, which you'll see on several of those GPC pages, that when you click them, actually take you to the brands and products that meet the GPC requirements. So this is the kind of 35,000-foot view. Let's show you what an actual page example looks like next, or almost next. So what I'm going to do, Paul's going to do that part. So to summarize what I've said, the federal programs are the big ones like Energy Star and BioPreferred and WaterSense and Safer Choice. Then you have the third-party eco-labels and certifications that come from EPA. And then in our system also, we do have some manufacturer-provided data, and that comes when those manufacturers have products that are already meeting one of the EPA box things or the federal programs. In other words, we only have manufacturer data if it's already run the gauntlet of being certified by one of those other programs. And what that's allowed us to do is actually create the largest curated database of federally compliant products in the marketplace. And you see all the data that you can read on the right. Automating the big complex library of what it takes to actually do the work of sustainability is really important. And it's what is necessary because a lot of people in the process assume that, oh, if I'm buying off of federal schedule, it must already be compliant. Or if something has a little green sign next to it in GSA Advantage, maybe that's all I need to know. And we know better that we actually need to have high fidelity data about what is compliant and make that easy for folks so that shortcuts that seem like the answer are not accidentally chosen by people who need to do this for their job. So let's show you how we've actually made this easier in the next slides, and Paul will take it from here.
All right, thanks, Michael. So again, Paul Shariari, and I'm going to share with you guys how SFTool connects to those rules and how we automate the process of bringing all the ANSI BIFMA level certification data along with other data that we have in the industry about furniture. So as Michael said, there's a page dedicated to furniture inside the GPC, the Green Procurement Compilation. It outlines some federal programs that need to be met, CPG being the recycled content stuff, bio-preferred from USDA bio-based, and then the EPA's recommended specifications and ecolabel. So the first one, that's a multi-attribute standard, which is the highest kind of form of compliance, is ANSI BIFMA. So there's level, then there's following by C2C, the GCA, GECA furniture standards, TUV Rhineland's Green Products Mark, IFLI's Green Living Product Challenge, Sustainable Furnishings Council exemplary status, SMART, and then some single attribute standards like Declare, SCS Indoor Advantage Gold, Eco Logo or Green Guard, Global Recycling Standard, NSF, and ANSI 336, and then also your criteria for a specific element of level for emissions at 7.6.2 or equivalent. So the way that a furniture buyer would have to normally go is to either learn all these things or have access at their fingertips of all the product certification databases that are there. And what we do is we automate that data directly in there. So everything that's in BIFMA level on the Ecomes platform that you're all part of is automatically going to be hyperlinked for that buyer to see. So it's no different than them going to that actual site and finding the data there. What Michael Bloom and the GSA had asked us to do is anywhere that we can go get another registry full of data and bring that directly to the buyer, that's what these binoculars are for. And rather than going to all these individually, we can rack and stack all the data from all the different eco labels. So when a user is on the furniture page and they'd like to see what brands and what products meet those requirements, without them having to know all this other data below, they're going to get to an automatic set of search results. In this case, 32,923 total results under the heading of furniture. That is anything that's been certified to level or C2C or Declare, SCS Indoor Advantage, Green Guard, or then EPDs, FSC, things like that. And these additional high performance filters are not the driver to be in the platform. You have to meet either one of the federal standards or the EPA recommendations. But since we have this other data in our database, it becomes additional data that a federal buyer can see on the fly. So it's just there to make it easier. These binoculars save about 90% of the headache for the buyer. And also anyone that's working at a dealer or a sales rep inside of your company that's trying to sell to the federal government, you can also use the same tool to go grab the data that you want to present. And I'll show you in the live demo how that works and how you can build a small RFP or RFI response or even a bid document right back to the buyer. So all this data is available to the user at their fingertips. The other thing that's in there under the furniture category is furniture components. So there's some rules on loose fill and spray on insulation or foams, fabrics, furniture structure, particle board. So if you are a component manufacturer, you might want to take a look at these. These are all driven by recycled content data. So if you have some of that data available and it matches up with one of these guidelines, we can help you make sure that the federal buyer can see that as well. So those are the two main furniture specific guidelines in the GPC that we'll cover. So I'll stop right here. If anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat. Also, if you'd like to be unmuted, I could also unmute you and you guys can provide any comments before we go into the live demo. So I'll give you guys a minute if you'd like to raise your hand or put it in the chat. I don't know if I see any yet. So I'll just continue on with the live demo. So I'm just going to give you that example of how you go from the sftool.gov site directly to the furniture catalog inside of our platform. So if you go to procure on the GPC and a buyer goes down to furnishings, subcategory furniture, you'll see basically this is the federal site. Here are all the different hyperlinks. I'll take you back to that standards body, that certification body, or the specification group that might have access to all that information. And instead of the buyer having to do that scavenger hunt, it's usually about 120 clicks to kind of find all the data you want below here. They can just click on the binoculars and that'll take and open up our platform, but only with furniture selected. So this drops them right into that platform, and you can see, you can further sort by, say, seating. So if you were looking for only seating products, if you're categorized as seating in the level database, that will pop up, and then you can go even further into subtypes. And every brand that has seating that's level certified or meets any of these other criteria are all available to the user. And in those brackets, it actually shows you how many products have that designation. So if I wanted to see only the BIFMA level seating products, it'll then further categorize it into subtypes, and then the brands will automatically sort out for the buyer and show you what they've achieved. They could even further sort by BIFMA level. So there's a fast and easy way to kind of find your stuff. If you clear out the search and you just type in a certain name, you can always just type in a brand name, and then it'll provide you a way to find the product either by name, by SKU, or directly through, say, a brand name search. And that'll provide the entire catalog of the 25 products that have achieved that criteria. In this case, all of those came from certification body at SES. So the whole point of this platform is to make it very easy for both the buyer and the seller to find their data that complies and provide that buyer a much easier experience, because everything on sftool.gov and everything here linked on the sftool.ecommunities.com has been vetted for compliance. Everything on furniture that's been certified to one or more of those guidance elements is all available to you right here. We got a question. We are on the platform, but we are not yet on SFTool. So if you cannot find your products on there, we'll have to take a look at how your products are categorized. One thing about how the SFTool works is you have to make sure that all your products are properly categorized and they meet one or more of these guidelines. So we'll have to take a look at that offline. We can schedule a half-an-hour call and really go quickly through that and make sure that we can answer that question for you. But everything on the BIFMA level site, if categorized properly into the product categories that SFTool is looking for, that data will flow through directly to whatever catalog we're looking for. So we'll take a look at that. Here you can see ice machines in SFTool is part of building furnishings, wall coverings, water coolers. There's other things that are in that category. If you click on furniture, that will be the subcategorization that we're looking for and looking to find. Let's see, what else can we cover? The other additional filters, some of the new EOs that are coming online, there's going to be one about buy clean. So that'll reward manufacturers that have LCA and EPD related data. And there's also a new focus on PFAS and certain chemicals. If you have an HPD or a declare certificate and you do not have PFAS in your product, that's another way to have a product data flow through to the platform.
We just got a question about acoustical ceiling tiles, that there aren't any binoculars there. I think we have an answer for you on that one too.
Yeah, so if you go to the GPC and you go under federal standards, you'll see building finishes, and under acoustical ceiling tiles, most of the product data that we have is listed as a ceiling tile. So we are working to kind of get some of these very, very binary ways. The way the database works is if it doesn't see exactly acoustical ceiling tiles, it will not result. And it's so if we have a product manufacturer that's been certified to a certification body and they call themselves ceiling tiles without the acoustical part, then they won't make their way onto this platform. So we're working on ways to kind of expand the horizon of this definition and include just ceiling tiles or just acoustical ceiling tiles, or, you know, I think there's a couple other variants that Michael and I are working on. As long as you've met these requirements and you meet one or more of these definitions, you'll be able to flow in, and we'll have those binoculars added soon.
Right. What Paul is referring to when we say we are working on this, we've recognized, because we sit as the data holders of that say, hey, you have all these requirements, where's all the data? Okay, Ecomedes has that. But when we recognize that the categories as they currently stand are getting in the way of people seeing what they're looking for, we actually have conversations with the owners of the federal environmental programs, including EPA, about these kinds of issues. And SFTool Product Search has actually helped us identify where we have a market, those numbers that you see next to each one of the categories on the left-hand side, like the 4,326 BIFMA level things that are coming up, and where we sometimes have a bigger set of products that should be there, but we're not seeing them because of what people are currently calling them. And when we identify that, and thank you for your question as well, we run that up the chain to make sure to advocate for those manufacturers and folks that are making the right things and getting certified in the way that they are creating green products, but for some reason are not being seen when you're trying to present the data. So keep letting us know about that, and know that we are doing our best to make sure to advocate for folks who are manufacturing things that are BIFMA level certified or otherwise. And acoustic tiles needing to be acoustic is a big one, so that we can continue to be aware of how calling something by a slightly different name or being more holistic in how we include items can help everybody.
Yeah, another point to just look at is under the title furniture, right? So we have this hierarchy that we're trying to follow based on this specific buyer's need, and we have other buyers that use our platform too, like the USGBC is building furnishings, furniture, and then all these other subtypes. But we have data coming in on a monthly basis, or sometimes even more readily than that, from BIFMA level, from C2C, from Declare, from SCS. Many of you guys manage a lot of that data from UL Green Guard, from EPD sources that are 6 different ones now, FSC, HPD. Every one of these data sources for certification data characterizes products slightly differently. So when we get data passed along from multiple groups, I'll go in this human scale example, this data is coming into SFTool for Michael and the federal buyer from a lot of different sources. And if we don't have the brand name, the product name, even just having a space or ink or some other type of a designation, and it's really hard to have all this data coming in. So there's external links in and out of this product page. But if you look at certifications, there's 7 or 8 different certification sources. So here, this came from SCS on the 18th of 2022. This HPD came from the HPD Collaborative on the 10th of February. This other external link came from Human Scale. This LBC Red List approved came from ToxNot. So as we kind of try to data merge, imagine a 12-lane on-ramp and then trying to get on the 1 lane. So we are always trying to clean up this data, and that's what we're going to do with the data enrichment program. We can help you guys identify the areas that you might have multiple things trying to jam on the 1 lane on that on-ramp, and also add an ability to have a GSA contact number added to your product data from BIFMA level. So that's one of the things we're going to work with you guys on. But the point is to make it easy for them, the GSA, to contact you. If they want to contact you, they'll get a direct email to whoever you designate as the email contact. It also allows the user, both your sellers and their buyers, to say, I want to know how this product meets federal guidelines. And with one button, they'll get that entire product PDF generated. It's going to take a couple seconds for it to reload. All this data is evaluated against those rules on the previous screen. And then here is the documentation that says it meets federal guidelines, it's compliant with an executive order or whatever those guidelines are. And then you as the buyer or you as the seller can go get that PDF generated for you, and you can supply that with your PO or your RFP or RFQ or RFI response. So the whole idea is to make it very easy for the buyer to find that kind of single player mode data that they might be looking for. You can also use the platform to do comparisons of multiple products. So I can go in here and say, I'm looking for all the products that are on BIFMA level. I'm going to go back and pick on that seating example for a second, and I'll do task seating as a subtype. So there's 92 results that are BIFMA level that follow that kind of brand designation. I could say, I'd like to add this to a comparison. I'll add this one to a comparison. I'll go find some others down here, lower in the search. I'll add this to a comparison. I can add this to a comparison. And what it does is, since it's a structured database, all the products, and you can do up to 8 if you have a large monitor, can all be put up side by side. And then you can see what product data is available, not only from BIFMA level, but also from other types of certifications that might be aligned with that product. This one has an EPD, this one has a health product declaration. All of them obviously have a BIFMA level designation. Some are at level 3, some are at level 2. So the tool, because it's structured, allows for certain things to be really, really powerful and quick, but that requires us to have really, really good data feeds in and be able to curate that data in a way that makes it easier for both the seller and the buyer to find it quickly. And otherwise, you'd be doing the work that I used to do, which is go out to 4 different websites and go try to hand curate all this data. And in a couple of months, some of this data from different sources would have to be updated. So my life used to be spent in spreadsheets. This makes it a lot easier to do the process. One last thing I'll show you guys before I open up for more questions. We can unmute you. If you could do that for me, Haley, and just let people just ask a question directly, that'd be fine. But if I log out and log back in, I want to show you kind of what it allows the person to do. And it's free to create an account. You can make as many projects as you want, but allows the user to build kind of what we consider the most valuable piece of this tool is use it like you normally would. You could use it in research mode, but when you're actually working on a project, you're trying to sell your stuff to the federal government or another buyer. This is an example of just me pulling a bunch of BIFMA level compliant products into a project. So imagine a large scale project that might want to be able to look at all these products. I could actually build an order as many SKUs as I want. You can even put in the unit price and the quantity if you want to run calculations. But I could say I want to look at it from a lead perspective, a federal guidance perspective. I want to look at it from a well perspective. And I'm going to look at it from a living building challenge perspective. And again, the work that I did leading up to building this platform was I used to do this all the time for not only project teams, but on behalf of manufacturers. And this is including all the data that runs along with this. So if I were looking at that chair, there's going to be some chair associated with this Viper product, this level 3 designation. In some cases, some of these products might have multiple sources of data all purging in and loading up into one product line. So I would never be able to just go grab all these PDFs, but the tool digitally has them all in the background. It's kind of cached them up. And if I go back to that project, I can just run this entire order against all these guidelines. And with one click, in a couple of seconds, I've had processed the quantity unit prices that would actually give me that. But all of these products are being evaluated against compliance against federal standards with one click. And now I don't have to go build out multiple PDFs. I don't have to grab all that data. All that's available to me. And I can hit download PDF. And now I have a digital document with all those hyperlinks still active to those BIFMA certificates or SCS or Green Guard certificates for that federal buyer or on behalf of that project team. So here's all my lead credits. Here's all my well credits. Here's all my LBC credits, all documented based on whatever data the system already had acknowledged for all the products that were in that thing. So it's a very long PDF, but I don't have to go grab any of the individual cut sheets. All of these hyperlinks to go grab you those certificates are all dynamically being generated on the fly. So whoever gets that PDF in an email will have access to it. So you don't have to spend time and effort and a lot of money to go after all that certification data. So with that, I'll stop and answer any questions. We have plenty of time to do other deeper dives.
There were quite a few questions as you were talking, and I did my best to provide some provisional answers, Paul. We do plan on talking about the data enrichment program, but because one of the questions was very specific to that, about who do you work with if you want to change your points of contact listed for your company, or you've noticed that the picture is incorrect, we have a solution for you on that. Paul, do you mind if we tackle that now and then go back and answer the other questions after?
Yeah, so we have a plan and a process we started last year. You guys can contact us. I'll give you guys my contact information, paul@ecomedes.com. We can schedule a one-on-one review to review where we're getting your product data currently from. We'll do kind of a survey inside of our entire database, not just the SFTool version, but our products@ecomedes.com, which is a free-flowing database of all certification data that's available out in the marketplace. We'll analyze that. And then the biggest thing that we see is a brand name alignment. So we'll take a look and make sure your brand name, obviously, since we have BIFMA level data, that's probably very well aligned. They have a very good database. The 6 certification bodies do a great job of having images and descriptions. And a lot of that data is already available in there. But if you have other data that's come in from other ecolabels, I saw a couple questions related to that. We'll make sure that we kind of tell you what on-ramp data is coming. And then maybe there's a way to kind of do some brand alignment. If the contact information you'd like changed needs to be done, you could do it either directly on the certification side of what we're pulling in, like in this case, your BIFMA level contact for your certifier, that will automatically be updated, or we can take a look at other ways to kind of make that contact information get fixed. Just know that if you're not a client of ours, we're probably getting your data. We are getting your data from another source. So if you fix it at the source, it'll no longer be an issue on our site because we can only show what we've pulled in. But if it's something that we can control for you, we can certainly do that. And many brands have 5 or 6 certification bodies that they deal with. And that's one of the things we do for our clients is make all that craziness a little bit easier to palette. And we'll just give you a simple spreadsheet, show you all our SKUs, and then you guys can go in and fill in what is appropriate, whether it's a GSA contact name, title, email, or it could be some categorization things that might be a little bit wonky, or if you have a URL for, you know, your e-commerce site, your manufacturing locations, any of that kind of stuff, we'll be happy to help you clean that data up as part of our data enrichment program. So after this, I'll send you this deck. I'll send you the recording. You guys can schedule one-on-one, and we'll do that preemptive research before we get on the phone with you and show you where it's coming from.
Great. Just to let you know, I mean, I work with Ecomedes on a almost daily basis, along with the certification bodies, as Paul mentioned. So for those in the level program, I mean, that kind of data flow is going on quite consistently, but we're also, again, working with the certification bodies in particular to make sure things are updated. So if you're not getting the right answers, so to speak, by all means, contact me as well, because I'm working with the some of the people who are putting the data in.
Yeah, thanks for that, Steve. And as far as the rules that govern whether or not you show up on sftool.ecomedes.com or not, that's why we started with the SFTool Green Procurement Compilation. You need to be meeting at least one of the rules that are underneath there in any building. In this case, furniture. So CPG, biopreferred, and then all the eco labels that follow from there. Those are the kind of setting how big the aperture or how much stuff flows to sftool.gov. Sometimes the question is, well, why am I not showing up? I have these certifications. Sometimes there isn't a federal rule about a certain type of product, which means that there's not a requirement. And this is one of those funny places where people in industry are like, we want you to have a requirement because we're doing all the right stuff and we'd love for us to show up in a search like this. There is no application to be part of sftool.gov or sftool.ecomedes.com. It's essentially when your data is in the system, whether it's SCS or BIFMA level, then that automatically flows into the system because it's part of the set that complies. What Paul and I built with the data enrichment program is a way to be made aware of where there might be a mismatch and give you the chance to fix the data at its source, which is ultimately better than anything else. That means everywhere that data flows, you've solved that problem for yourself, including flowing to sftool.gov when that's appropriate. Lots of new messages.
Yeah, you all have the ability to unmute if you'd like to just ask a question live. Sometimes it's been typing in, but we're happy to answer it any way you feel comfortable asking the questions.
When do you think you'll be able to add the small business categories for the government to be able to search by category?
That is one of the new features we're looking to add under kind of an SBA designation. So small business categories, made in America. There's a plethora of ones that we're trying to align with. We just got to get clearance from the GSA to add that type of a feature to this kind of a format. So that's definitely something we're looking to do.
A lot of the that's a great question, and a lot of the new issues that are coming up in the most recent executive orders on sustainable procurement include things like carbon or embodied carbon. They include things like Justice 40 with environmental justice initiatives. The challenge is that there needs to be a database or a registry or equivalent for us to be able to integrate in our tool in order to show that. And so we're pushing to make sure that we get high fidelity information on that end too, before we pretend that we can just solve all the problems at once. Sometimes the data sources lag behind the initiatives to create the data sources. So my office works on those issues and in the nexus of those. So we care a lot about being able to show you both.
Yeah, and what Michael's kind of pointing out is we are working on a couple of demo elements where you can kind of search by embodied carbon, you can search by these tiers, you know, whatever the client wants to be able to add to their thing, you can search by market. So this kind of like a precursor to Made in America compliance. So anything that we can do to make it easier, as long as we have that structured data flow that we can work off of, the computer can do that work every night and provide that sorting of data. When the computer does it though, it has no wiggle room. If your name is spelled with an ink, with a period, not period, and a comma, those will show up as 3 different things. And sometimes that's why you guys might see doubles of your products. The brand name's the same, but the product name is different. And then you might see in one registry might have images, one might not. BIFMA Level is held as one of the best registries that gets to give data to the GSA, because not only are you multi-attribute, but you've always had pictures, descriptions, and all this other kind of information. So while even though some of these listings have more than just BIFMA level data, because you guys know what your level registry data looks like, this is actually adapting to all data that comes in from BIFMA level, plus other sources, plus the manufacturer. So you can kind of augment and enrich your data if you do a better job of putting your digital content out there, and then we can absorb it a lot easier for you. So we'd love to go into that, you know, and one-on-one's a lot easier because we can look at just your products, just your certifications. And many manufacturers that we work with have other things they want to tell the federal buyer about. So some of our clients do have Made in America designation in there. They have B Corp designations. They have women-owned business. It's just not a factorable filter on the left-hand nav the way that we've currently deployed the tool, because Michael gets to say he wants his ecomedes to do a very specific thing. So, and the GSA, I mean, when I say Michael, I mean the GSA.
Right. And the challenge also that I have is that I need to stay consistent with the Green Procurement Compilation as the set of rules governing what I want, what I can display in sftool.gov. I don't want to get out ahead of EPA because we all need to be allies and be speaking with one voice. Where Paul has already shown you that I can experiment is with those additional filters, those additional high performance filters. Our way of saying we have some more data. This data might help you make decisions about which product you're going to buy. We're going to surface that data, but we're not going to pretend that it's identical to the EPA specification standards and ecolabels. And it kind of serves as the beta for me to be able to show that the market's there, but also to disclose the good information of those manufacturers that are getting certifications in those new areas.
Questions? Steve, is there anything else that you'd like us to cover?
No, I mean, you know, I think one thing that I guess I'll just say, because there's so many members on here right now, is that Paul and I have discussed doing some more work on like what searchable criteria will be part of both our registry, and I could see that spilling over to the GSA SFTool. Yeah, that information right there. As most all of you have now moved to the version 2019 of the E3 standard, there are some credits in there that are going to be directly aligned with like healthy hospital initiatives or like PFAS-free type things. And that's an area that I'm definitely going to work with ecomedes and others on to make it easier for them to select, because we know that there's buyers out there already, both within the government and outside the government, who are asking those specific questions. And if you've done the work through level, you've gotten third-party certified, you know, you should get the credit, and it should be something searchable for you.
Yeah, that's a great point. So just know that everything that comes into BIFMA level onto our platform, we also send first to basically products.ecomedes.com, which is our main data site. And then what SFTool is subset. So this site has almost 1 million products on it. And what SFTool has, based on their category rules, are only products that pre-make all those check marks happen. So this is kind of like a baked-in consultant for federal buyers across the product categories that you guys saw in the GPC. So we're kind of not only just a database, but we're actually doing the work that a buyer would need to do, so that they don't have to kind of always scratch their head and go, I wonder if this chair meets those guidelines. that's essentially baked in not only for federal guidelines, but all those lead rating systems, Living Building Challenge, Green Globes, those also sometimes percolate for federal project teams. So just know that that data that you've already worked so hard with either Level or any other certifying body flows through. And if we can aggregate more of it on your behalf or spread your Level certificates out to every single product that's achieved that. I know many Level certificates are like a one-to-many. Just know you want to create as much digital surface area as you can to make these new digital like workflows that A&D are going through now or shifting towards. It makes it a lot easier for them to buy with confidence because now they know, oh, it meets GPC standards. Well, what if I also needed to think about, LEED CI, and these things keep changing. As a former faculty member, I'm going to apologize for how much LEED has changed over the years, but this is not easy to do. And we just launched this new feature that's called detailed credit display. It not only tells you the credit you've achieved, but it tells you why. So these are kind of declarations of what made your thing contribute, what thing were you complying with that allowed you to get this low emitting credit. So just know that all that stuff is already empowered for you. And the more data we have, the better we can serve you and the federal buyer.
And maybe going a little bit off topic here, but we're working with Ecomedes on a regular basis with not just this conversation around GSA, but others are going down this road as well. Other groups that are doing procurement, even the A&D community is starting to go down the road of this kind of data flow. So I'm bringing it up only because, we at BIFMA are going to be pushing, as well as your certification bodies, to really help you guys get the most organized data and the best data, because it is going to get shared one way or another with many others, obviously with your permission. But it's just kind of a new, maybe not a new way, but a more popular way of frankly selecting product.
And somebody asked about how many users. So last year we supported over 200,000 users across the platform, not just the SFTool or the BIFMA level one, but overall. And they got served up on behalf of the platform about 1.1 million products. So by searching, by filtering, by different standards, doing what they needed to do around lead rating systems or whatever, we've kind of helped people and assisted that many folks through about 1 million total sessions and served up the data for them. So they didn't have to do all that extra scavenger hunting at the beginning or doing that follow-on reporting. And that's the other thing is you guys can create a free account on here. And anytime you guys have a federal bid or you're doing a sale to a federal buyer, you can always just create basically obviously your own brand, but build out an entire little order. And at the very bottom, just run it through whatever gauntlet you want. Federal client, lead, all of them, just to know how that kit of parts might help a building owner. With one click, you'll be able to generate that documentation. So we're really proud of helping create a value for all the hard work you've already done to certify your products. We'd like you to get credit with the buyers that have asked you for that data. We will like to put that data to work and then showcase how it evaluates against it. And again, you can do it for free, download the PDF, send it off, and it's simplifying a lot of that cost of consulting on every single project. Let's see. Thanks, Haley, for giving us some of that analytics on the data.
Right. And analytics on the sftool.gov site independently of that are in the close to 10,000 range as well per month for users of the tool, for unique users of the tool. We have a lot of power users that are on SFTool a lot or keep it open a lot and it doesn't ping multiple times.
And all my usage today is not factored in the analytics.
There you go.
My usage is always put into a trash can.
I really appreciate all of the questions specific to your own products that you see, that we all look at websites that should have what we did on them from an egocentric perspective. That's really good. And remember that the data enrichment program is there for you so that if you notice something that's either out of whack or some people notice, wait, I had no idea everything that I'd been working on is there and so easy to access. I'm going to share this with my customers. So either way, make sure to either contact us or share it with your customers. In many cases, you may, because you've been on this session today, you may be in position to share the benefits of your products with your federal customers in a way that says, I know you need to do this kind of stuff. Did you know that you could use this tool to find us and get all the documentation you need for your project? you may be in a position of educating people more powerful than me, because I can reach out to you, but I can't reach out to every federal buyer. And we're very open to continuing improvements to our site. Now, Steve is regularly in communication with Paul, and BIFMA is a phenomenal partner when it comes to eco-labels for all of the people who BIFMA represents, but it's also great to have this high fidelity information as a federal buyer, speaking from me at GSA. So I think you're very fortunate to have BIFMA providing you with so many tools.
So in conclusion, I'm going to send you guys this deck. I'll send you a recording of this training. You can share it out. We're going to be doing more of these with other eco labels, and actually we're in webinar week. We've done one a day for the entire week. So I apologize about the typo earlier, but we'll send you the data. You can schedule a meeting with us as soon as next week if you'd like. Try to give me at least a day so I can do the research. I can pull down all the data that we have from all your different sources, get that in a way to share with you, and we can review any questions you might have related to pictures, descriptions, data sources, whatever you'd like. I'd love to help you understand where all that's going and where it can get improved. And like I said, it's a very straightforward spreadsheet. It's usually a Google sheet. You update it, let us know, and then we'll put it into production to get that stuff aligned, figured out. And then we'll tell you where the source is, so you might be able to just change it on the source, and upon the next ingestion, we'll be able to bring it in correctly, directly from where it's had. So with that, I think we've got all the questions answered. If you didn't get a question answered, you want to just send me an email today. I'll try to respond before the end of the week, but we can set up those meetings starting next week. I'd love to talk to you guys directly.
Right, and I have at least one question that I responded to the asker. Ping me afterwards at michael.bloom@gsa.gov. I'd love to get that answer for you, but I won't be able to get back to you unless I also get an email. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve, for hosting us, and thank you to everyone on the BIFMA side. You guys have done a great job, and we love working with your platform, both on the level.ecommunities.com side, but we love porting that data over anywhere in the marketplace that wants your standard. So thank you all, and we look forward to talking to you next week.
Right. Goodbye, everyone.